Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be working on Valid Anagram and we're going to be continuing on with the TypeScript line 75. So in this problem you're given two strings s and t and you want to return true if t is an anagram of s or false otherwise. Anagram is a word or phrase formed by rearranging the letters of a different word, typically using all the letters exactly once. So essentially what you have to have for an anagram is the count of every letter in this word has to match the count of every letter in this word. So there's a few ways to do this. You could make two hash maps or two dictionaries or whatever. And you could just compare every single letter count and make sure that they all have the same letters. But what we're going to do instead is we are just going to use one dictionary. And then we're just going to go through both of these index by index. And every time it's in S, we'll add one. And every time it's in T, we'll subtract one. And then at the end, we'll just see what's the max value there. And then if the max value is non-zero, then we can return false. So let's kind of show how this is going to work for this. And also, we can also check for strings that aren't the same length, because for two strings to be an anagram, they have to be the same length. So we can just check for that beforehand, and then we can do that. So let's just go over this like anagram example. So if we have anagram, and we have Anagram. So essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the same index for both, and for the top one we'll add, for the bottom one we'll subtract, or you can do the other way. So let's start here. So for A, we're going to have a count 1. Then for N, we're going to have a count -1. Then we're going to go to the next character. And now for N, we're going to have a count 0 because we're going to add. Then for A, we're going to subtract, so we'll have 0. Then here, we'll add 1 to A, and we'll subtract 1 for G. And then we will come over here. So we will add 1 to G, so that would be 0. We'll subtract 1 from A, 0. Then we will add and subtract 1 from R, so we'll have R, 0. Then we will add and subtract 1 from A, so A will be 0, and we'll subtract and add from M, so M will also be 0. Then when we get the max value, it'll be 0, and that will be an anagram. And basically, if two words are the same length and there's some non-matching character count, what's going to happen is not all of these will be 0. So some of these will be positive and some of these will be negative, right? Because let's say instead of anagram, instead of this M, we would have an A. What would happen is then this A count would be 1. So this A count would be 1, and this M count would be -1. So we can just get the max value, and if the max value is non-zero, that means there's some positives and some negatives, right? So there has to be some positives and some negatives if the characters aren't equal, because essentially there's going to be some characters that aren't in here that are in here, and vice versa. So there's going to be some more in here that are in here, and then some more in here that are in here. And that's pretty much it. So it's a pretty straightforward problem. We're just going to make a hash map and just go through index by index. So we can code that up. So we're going to make an object called like chars or something, and it's going to be type record, and it's going to be so the key will be a string, and then the value will be a number. Right? So we'll do that. Okay. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. I haven't coded enough right now. I've been coding in Python recently, so I always screwing these up. Okay, so there we go. So now that we have that, we're going to go through character by character. So the other thing we can check is if the two lengths aren't different, right? Or are different. So if the lengths are different, then we can just return false. So if s.length is not equals t.length, let's just return false here. Yeah. How am I spacing so weird? Okay. Let's return false here. Because essentially, for it to be an anagram, they have to have the same length. Okay. So now we will loop through every character. So we'll just say like for I equals 0, I is less than length, I plus. And then we're essentially going to add these characters. So we're going to say characters of s of I equals, and then if it exists, we'll use the value. So So we'll say if it exists, we'll do this. And if it's falsy, let's just use 0. And we will add 1. And yeah. And then the same thing for t. So characters t of I equals characters t of I or 0 plus 1. We'll see what error this is later. And then essentially what we have to look through is we have to loop through all of the keys here. So we have to loop through all the keys and we just have to get the max value. So we just have to say like if, or I guess we can say return math.max of object dot values of characters. And we want to spread operator this, I think, because this is object.values array is going to be an array, and math.max takes a list of things. So return math.max object values cars equals 0. I'm not sure what we did wrong here too. So many things. Okay, let's kind of see what we did wrong. Let's see what errors we get. Okay, so plus cannot be assigned to number, and number. Okay. Oh, right, so this should be lowercase, I think. Okay, there we go. Yeah, haven't coded in TypeScript in a while, so. Let's see here. Math.max false expected true. Oh, this should be a minus. Okay, there we go. All right, and as you can see, it's a pretty efficient solution. So let's talk about the time and space for this one. So essentially, we're going through both arrays, right? They're going to be the same length. So if they're not the same length, then we are just prematurely returning. So actually, we're going to be looping through, I guess it'll be length of one of them. So length of S, we'll call that like O of S or whatever it is. And they have to be the same length, so S and T will be the same. Okay. And then for the space, we are making a hash map. But as always in these problems, since we're only using characters as keys, there can only be like so many characters, right? So it's lowercase English characters. So if there's only 26 characters, the space is O of 1 because there's only 26 keys. Similarly, for this part, it's going to be only O of 26, so that's basically O of 1. No matter how big the string is, this is going to be very small. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for this one. So pretty easy one. I just had to remember the syntax for TypeScript again. And yeah, if you did like this video, please like it and please subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.